In this video, we bring you the 4% rule to retire forever. If you're above the age of 30, then you need to know this rule, as it is the key to your retirement. And have you ever thought about how much savings it takes to retire? According to many investment experts, the 4% rule is intended to make your retirement savings last indefinitely. Whether this will work in your case or not, you shall find that out today. And before we dive in, make sure to like this video and subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified whenever a new video comes out, so you can receive all the latest financial tips that we have to offer. If you know someone who would benefit from this video, please share it with them. Now, let us discuss the 4% rule and how you can apply it to retire early. The 4% rule is a rule of thumb that determines the amount of funds you will withdraw from a retirement account every year. It's called the safe withdrawal rate because the money you withdraw consists mainly of interest and dividends, never touching your principal capital. This makes sure that your investment principal remains the same or never goes down, allowing it to continue to generate money for you. The main idea behind the rule is that once you have approximately 25 times your annual expenses saved for retirement, then you can retire with reasonable certainty that you can survive until death on your investments. So the money you take out every year would be 4% of your entire retirement investments. So for example, if you have $500,000 in your retirement investment savings, then 4% of that would be $20,000. That would be the amount you withdraw annually to live on, allowing for the $500,000 to keep generating new money for you. Making use of the 4% rule early requires you to develop a frugal mindset and lifestyle. And remember that cheap and frugal are different things. It's not okay to be cheap, but it is okay to be frugal. This is because you're looking to save and invest enough money that the interest or the dividends help pay for your monthly living expenses in the future. Saving your money and then investing it is going to serve two different purposes here. Number one being that the less you're living on, the more you'll be able to save from your paycheck. And the more money you manage to save on your paycheck, the more money you can ultimately invest. In turn, the profits that will be made off of those investments will help to pay for your living expenses in the future. Secondly, by spending as little money as possible every month, you don't need to save up as much money to cover your retirement expenses, allowing you to retire earlier. Now that you've developed a frugal lifestyle and maximized the amount of money put into investments, this next step will be a little tough. But it's a great contributor to your ultimate goal towards leveraging the 4% rule. People who have the 4% rule as the end goal in mind aren't driving a brand new car every 2 years, nor going on expensive vacations every year. They'll even go so far as cutting down on costs involved in their daily routine, such as the food they eat or taking a bicycle to work. Cut mercilessly on any waste or expensive products, where generic products do just as good of job. Non-brand name clothing is a great way to reduce expenses. Negotiating reductions in utility bills, rent, and phone provider bills are also opportunities to increase savings. All of these can be done for free and yield decent savings. Now you might think this is an exaggeration, but it isn't. These people spend as little money as possible because they're focusing on the big picture of what they're trying to do. Of course, this isn't financial advice, but financial education for you to learn from. I want you to see the benefit from this, but please use it at your own risk. Next, we will discuss passive investments. Passive investments is an investment strategy that helps to maximize returns by buying stocks that provide dividends. A classic example of this is index investing. Investors purchase a representative benchmark such as the S&P 500 index and hold it over a long time. Index funds bring you diversified exposure to the stock market. Here, you won't be picking up high-risk stocks that are expected to outperform the market. Instead, what we're talking about here is passively own the entire stock market with yields upwards of a 13% rate of return each year when looking over the past decade. Passively investing in these low-cost index funds buys a small chunk of the 500 largest publicly traded companies. All the dividends paid by those companies are put together. The investor also earns a quarterly dividend from it. So if you are only drawing 4% from your investment savings account every year, by using passive index investing, you wouldn't be touching your principal capital, allowing it to keep growing for you indefinitely. The original 4% rule used a retirement asset allocation of 50% stocks and 50% bonds. The S&P 500 index was used for the stock allocation, and intermediate-term government bonds were used for the bond allocation. Now, there are times when to avoid the 4% rule. The 4% rule is a rule of thumb, hence there are several instances where you will want to avoid using it. One of these situations is if your portfolio consists of higher risk investments rather than index funds and bonds that usually make a lower risk retirement portfolio. This is because a higher risk investment goes down and loses money on average 1 out of every 4 to 5 years. So if you have higher risk investments, then spending 4% of your capital might severely impact your investment savings account on those years of negative returns. Another reason you would want to lay off the application of this rule is that this rule demands consistency. Think if you have to make a large purchase, such as a massive medical bill or vehicle repair. It could have long-term damage on your savings down the road because the principal gets reduced. And the principal capital is the engine that makes the interest and dividends you survive on. Let's take an example from the figures we used earlier in the video where you withdrew $20,000 from your retirement savings account of $500,000 to pay for your retirement. In addition to taking out this money, suddenly the transmission in your vehicle breaks and it needs a new transmission. Then, in the same year, your spouse needs minor surgery and needs to stay at the hospital for a few days. The car repairs and medical bills come up to $30,000, along with the $20,000 you'll be needing that year for your living expenses. That makes a deduction of $50,000 from your total savings of $500,000, so now you have $450,000 left over. If you stick to the 4% withdrawal rate for the rest of your retirement, immediately you are down to $18,000 to pay for expenses each year. This is from the massive withdrawals impacting your principal capital. Also, suppose a market dip happens at the same time as when you take out withdrawals. In that case, it could be even more impactful to your principal capital. It's pretty clear in this example how one tough year has left you with such a big gap in your retirement income. This is why in some instances, it wouldn't be wise at all to apply the 4% rule, but another retirement strategy such as lean fire that we explain in another video. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on to be notified when a new video comes out so you can receive all the latest financial tips. And if you know someone who would benefit from this video, please share it with them. In summary, being armed with the knowledge of the 4% rule gives clarity on how to retire. One of the advantages you can do right now is determining your investment goals by back calculating your retired lifestyle annual cost and multiplying that by 4%. Also, when done with consistency and lower risk investments, you can use the 4% rule to guarantee your investments will fund your retired lifestyle forever. Well, that's it for today's video. Make sure to comment on what you learned or how you plan to use what you learned today. We would love to hear from you. And I will see you in the next video.